sports note for Sunday, December the 8th. And it's a little strange always when a captain gets traded in the NHL. It's even more strange when it happens this early in the year. To have a captain move, at the trade deadline, we've seen it happen just last year when Buffalo traded Kyle Okposo to the Florida Panthers and then ended up winning a cup and then retiring shortly after. But we see it at the deadline. We see guys not get their contracts renewed. Kind of like what happened with Steven Stamkos. But the New York Rangers now traded captain Jacob Trouba on Friday. The deal was finalized on Saturday to the Anaheim Ducks. Now, Trouba's still got 2 years left on his contract. Well, this year and next year, and then he's an unrestricted free agent afterwards, making $8 million a year. And he was actually moved for defenseman, and I know I'm going to butcher this, Urho Vakanainen to Anaheim. Trouba goes to Anaheim. Vakanainen and a fourth-round pick in 2025 comes back to the Rangers. The Ducks are also retaining all of Trouba's salary, so they're picking up the remainder of this year and all of next year. Trouba's only 30, and there's been a bit of a falling out with him in the Big Apple. Earlier in the day on Friday, he was actually scratched going into their matchup on Friday night against the Pittsburgh Penguins, as it was announced that they were looking for a trade partner. Now, Trouba has a modified no-trade clause where he had, I want to say, about 14 or 15 teams that he would not accept a trade to. Naturally, a lot of those would be, ones that actually could either pick up the salary cap money or playoff contenders, but it's still so early in the season, it's hard to actually kind of differentiate that. Who's to say that a team doesn't actually go on a run and back themselves into a wild card position? Anaheim is not likely to do that, but they've got the money, as they had over $20 million in salary cap room. The only team that had more salary cap room were the Columbus Blue Jackets, who, again, unfortunately, have all that salary cap room after the passing of Johnny Gaudreau a few weeks before the season. But Anaheim has a good young, a good young host of talent, but they've actually got to start making some decisions. Trevor Zegras' contract is coming up first and foremost here very, very soon, and there's a lot of talk that the Ducks could possibly move him at that point. Does Zegras stay now? What do the Rangers do here in this point? Because now the Rangers, it's not unfamiliar territory for the Rangers, because Trouba was the captain for the past 3 seasons, this year and then the 2 years before that. But the Rangers also went captainless 4 years prior to that, and that was also after Ryan McDonagh was traded at the 2018 trade deadline to Tampa Bay. McDonagh ends up, getting moved from the Rangers as captain to the Bolts, wins a pair of cups, leaves Tampa, has a 2-year stint in Nashville, then comes back this past summer, re-signs a 1-year deal with Tampa. So for the Rangers now to operate without a captain and have a rotation of alternate captains, it's definitely within the cards. They did it for the 3 years in between McDonagh's departure and then now Trouba getting named as captain. Now, Trouba, again, only 30 years old, very, very good, tough, gritty defenseman, but also has at times has been labeled as dirty. Trouba has been suspended twice in his career for illegal hits, and both of those times was a 2-game suspension. The first was in 2018 with Winnipeg, and then the second was last year, last season, actually earlier this calendar year with the Rangers. So again, a 2-game suspension either way. He's also been fined 3 other times, and if you include the suspensions and the 3 fines for other penalties by the league office at a maximum of $5,000 for those, when he's actually suspended, he loses the entire game check. Trouba's been docked 4 games and over $130,000 in contract money since 2018. Not not really the greatest track record. He also he was fined for an illegal hit for an elbow to Evan Rodriguez of the Panthers in the NHL playoffs last season when Florida went on to win the Cup, as we mentioned a few moments ago with Okposo. And at that point, since there was no suspension involved, it was the league maximum of $5,000, which, for Trouba making $8 million a year is a drop in the bucket. But there were a lot of people actually saying with the hit that Trouba should have actually been suspended at least a game and got off very, very easy in the eyes of the league, even though Florida would actually go on to win that series and win that series rather handily, nonetheless. But the Rangers now, they've got a pool of players that they can choose for if they decide to run with a captain. You're talking Adam Fox. You've actually got the possibility of a Vinny Trocheck. You've got Alexis Lafreniere. You've got Chris Kreider. Although Kreider is in his early 30s, who knows how long he's going to be there? Could they maybe look at Mika Zibanejad? And the other aspect of this is that with Trouba getting moved this early in the year, as the Rangers have just kind of hit the quarter pole for their season, Anaheim's going to actually take on right around $6 million of that salary, but it's also going to free up $6 million of the Rangers. And we know basically where that money went, as the Rangers later on Friday afternoon into early Friday evening re-signed goaltender Igor Shesterkin to a massive contract. Shesterkin, who's 29 again, signed to an 8-year, $92 million extension. So we know where that $6 million, really went for them, because that was going to be the big talk, is what did they do with Shesterkin? They knew that it was going to happen. The Rangers typically don't do extensions like that, or at least something of that magnitude, in the middle of the season. Now, it's certainly not a lost season. It's still very early. The Rangers are currently sitting in that first wild card spot with 29 points right now, but they were only 1 point up on Philadelphia and I want to say Tampa Bay from basically falling out of the playoffs altogether. They are sitting fourth in the Atlantic Division, but they are 6 points back of Carolina to get that guaranteed 2-3 matchup. It's definitely something that's within reach. Could they actually go on a run? They've got all the talent. We've seen them do it before. But now where does this leave the dichotomy here? Because now you've got your veteran leader in Trouba, who's been your leader for the last 3 years, now gets moved to a team that, quite honestly, there were reports coming out that the Rangers could have outright released him because the money was guaranteed, the entire weight of that contract, that he wouldn't have actually been able to control what team he would have been able to go to. So the Rangers, in that point, had they released him, yeah, they would have had to eat the money. Nobody's worse for wear here, but they don't get the assets back. But they actually have the control over what they do with Trouba, because apparently with the way that this reads, for Trouba requesting a trade and then basically sending him to one of the 5 worst teams in the NHL, who's got a ton of salary cap room but is not going anywhere, this really looks to have been a statement made by the Rangers. And whether it puts anybody else on notice within the franchise, for somebody like a Lafreniere to finally start living up to being the number 1 overall pick in 2020, for a guy like Adam Fox to be able to take his game as good as he is now, to be able to go from good to great, is Artemi Panarin in that conversation, although Panarin, we know, is on the back half of his career. He's not the player that he was a few years ago. He is still very good. The bread man is always going to be counted on with this franchise. And when you're in New York, you get the big name talent. We see it with the Yankees. We see it with the Knicks. The Rangers are no different. The Giants and the Jets are an absolute dumpster fire. And we all know that when you don't win in New York, it's not something that, first of all, sits well with the fans, secondly, sits well with the media, and that trickles down to the organization. So whether this was actually something that was brewing at the start of the season between Trouba and the Rangers remains to be seen, but it's something that apparently had to have been done, and the Rangers just couldn't wait until the trade deadline to be able to get a young defenseman, kind of, I don't want to say coming into his own, but somebody that, whether or not they send him to the AHL, or he's maybe kind of like a second or a third line, defenseman for them, getting a mid-round pick that is going to actually is going to toil down in the ECHL or the AHL for a couple of years, but to be able to get a prospect of like between that third and fifth round, and also shed yourself of $6 million of salary cap room, and also $8 million for next year. As much as it kind of breaks up the dichotomy in the leadership there, I think the Rangers win this trade. Now let's see what Trouba does in Anaheim with a team that young, really not going anywhere. And does Anaheim possibly, put maybe an alternate captain on Trouba? They're certainly not going to make him a captain right out the gate. So let me know what you guys think. Who wins this trade? Where do the teams go from here? Do you think the Rangers go captainless? Who is your favorite to take over as captain in the Big Apple? Mike and I will be with you guys by the time this actually airs. We will have gone live with the Wise Guys tonight. It's our second to last show of the year. I will be back with you guys very, very soon. Sunday night, December 15th, 1 week from tonight, will be the final Wise Guys show of the year. We will really not be talking any sports. It will be our holiday free-for-all 3, and we hope you guys will actually come in, chat with us, send us some offline messages. We're just basically going to talk holiday traditions. We're gonna maybe open a couple of gifts on air, and it's just gonna be a free for all. We're gonna have a good time. We're gonna close out 2024 in style. Everybody take care, and I will see you soon.